Okay, so you've reached out with some questions about a possible travel ban involving Pakistan. That's what we're going to dig into today. What we're doing is a deep dive into the background, and looking at potential reasons behind a move like that, using what we can find up to October 2023. But just remember, for the absolute latest, the most up-to-date info, stick with those really reliable news sources. I mean, things change quickly, right? So before we get into it, what jumps to mind for you when you hear travel ban? Like, what are those initial thoughts on why a country might do something like that?
Well, thinking about why countries might put travel bans in place, a few big themes keep popping up. Like in the time leading up to October 2023, public health emergencies, things like the COVID-19 pandemic, were a huge reason for restrictions worldwide. It was all about trying to stop the spread, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we all remember that pretty vividly. What other big factors might lead a country to make that kind of decision?
Unfortunately, security concerns are right up there. When a country is dealing with a higher risk of terrorism or, like widespread violence, they might see restricting travel as a way to try and boost security. And then you've also got internal political instability or even just relationships with other countries going sour. Diplomatic tensions can lead to travel restrictions too.
Okay, so that kind of lays out some general reasons, but thinking about Pakistan specifically, were there any times before October 2023 when, travel was restricted?
Yeah, there were definitely times when Pakistan tightened things up at the borders, put some limitations on travel, especially when things were heating up in the region security-wise. For instance, tensions with neighboring countries, like India or Afghanistan, have sometimes led to stricter checks, maybe some restrictions on people crossing the border. It wasn't always like a nationwide ban, but it shows you how travel can be, more tightly managed when specific situations arise.
So let's say, hypothetically, a full-on travel ban was put in place. What would we see right away? What would be the immediate effects?
Well, the impact would be pretty widespread. You'd probably see a huge hit to tourism, and businesses that rely on international travel would definitely feel the disruption. And probably most importantly, it would create a lot of hardship for families who have members both inside and outside of Pakistan.
Right, those are all pretty direct consequences. But do you think there could be less obvious reasons, maybe more strategic ones, for even thinking about a travel ban?
It's definitely possible. I mean, a travel ban could be a part of like bigger political or economic strategies that are being looked at the time. It can be used as a tool in diplomatic talks or even as a way to manage internal political stuff. But honestly, without more details from our sources, that's all just speculation.
And if something like that did happen, how do you think other countries and those international organizations, how would they react?
It's hard to say for sure. Reactions would probably depend on like what reasons were given for the ban and the specifics of the situation. International organizations and different countries might voice some concerns, especially if the move seemed over the top or, if the reasoning wasn't clear. There would probably be some diplomatic back and forth, trying to get more information and maybe encouraging some changes.
Right, so to be super clear for everyone listening, what we've talked about here is based on information that was available up to October 2023. We've gone over some general reasons why travel bans happen and a little bit of history for Pakistan, but we don't actually have info about any specific recent ban in the sources we looked at.
Exactly. We've covered things like public health crises, security threats, political instability, and diplomatic tensions. Those are all things that might push a country to consider, a pretty big step like that.
So, thinking about all these different reasons why a nation might decide to restrict travel, what does that say to you about how connected things are on a global level? How events around the world can influence national policies. As we finish up this deep dive, maybe it makes you think about how information changes over time and how we find it. Just something to ponder. Thanks for joining us.